Boom! Welcome back to yet another episode of Thoughts Express TV, where we tackle tough issues with a critical eye. I'm your host, McRob, and today we're going to be diving deep into the tragic and unsettling case of Adriana Younge, an 11-year-old girl in Guyana whose death has sparked national outrage and, just left lingering questions. And the reason why I felt compelled to speak about this topic is because I have kids of my own, and if you're a parent, you're going to feel the story to your heart. I mean, any story affecting kids in such a tragic way is going to be a heartfelt one. You know what I'm saying? And I kind of just watched for the past few weeks as several media outlets, gave their view on it. And I felt like it's time for me to give my views on it and just discuss the story from my perspective, in essence. Before we get started, don't forget to click that subscribe button. This way you'll be notified whenever we drop new content. So just to provide a brief synopsis for those of you who may not be, privy to this story, Adriana went to the pool with her family on April 23rd just to have a regular day of fun, swim, have fun, and return home in one piece. However, things took a tragic turn on that same day when she disappeared suddenly, mysteriously, nowhere to be found. So initially, the explanation provided for her disappearance is that she went off into a vehicle with a stranger, and that's how she was missing. That was the reason given for why she was missing. However, those claims were never corroborated with evidence and later found to be false. Now, the next day, on April 24th, Adriana's lifeless body was found in the swimming pool of the Doubleday Hotel, which is located in Tucson, Guyana, in what authorities initially described as, accidental drowning. And, they had a team of international pathologists who flew down, did their tests, and they also stated that there was no signs of forced physical trauma nor forced drowning. But here's where the story grows murky and where the debate begins. And even though they have those official findings, Adriana's family, in addition to the general public, remain unconvinced simply because, on the day in question and even the day before, the hotel, they gave them a fight when the search was being conducted. So that just suggests that there might have been a potential cover-up. In addition to the fact that the security cameras all of a sudden wasn't working. For an entity like that, of that magnitude, you would think that, security cameras, or at least some of the security cameras, would be working effectively. So for every camera to suddenly not be working just raised suspicions, So critics basically argue that, the case reeks of negligence at best and something far more sinister at worst. Because why would the hotel cameras not be working? Why did the staff delay in assisting during the search? And also, why is there a push to hurry up and close the case instead of doing a proper in-depth investigation to, assess all possibilities and to try to find, where this stemmed from, So all of these questions are just raising eyebrows and causing more conflict. So there was a civil unrest a few days following the whole, situation. And these are some of the questions that people have. So I want to be clear. Drownings is a tragically common, phenomenon. And sometimes the simplest explanation for drowning, is just telling the truth. But in a country like Guyana, that are where citizens have a great mistrust in politicians and in authorities, skepticism is not just paranoia. It's more so a protective reflex, because if the citizens feel like they can't trust who's supposed to be protecting them, then obviously it's going to raise questions of is there an alignment with what's going on? Is there a situation where the government knows exactly what transpired, and are they affiliated in any type of way with whom may have, committed this act? The mere fact that, the family and the general public requested that the pathologist who conduct the examination on the body be sourced from outside of the country, and that the DNA samples be sent abroad for testing and things of that nature. That in itself shows that there's a lack of confidence in local procedures, and that's deeper than even this situation, because citizens are supposed to have utmost faith in their political leaders and in their government, by extension. So the fact that they requested that, and the fact that the family is still not satisfied with the result, shows that there's just a historic undercurrent of corruption going on in the country. So my position is this: while we have to adhere to the science of forensic pathology, we can't ignore the gaps in accountability in the situation. And I think that's what a lot of people is missing. It's not about we don't trust science, but also the gaps in accountability plays a major role in the lack of confidence that people have in the systems that's in place in the country. You see, an accident is possible and it's even probable, but until we see, a proper investigation conducted, security footage, and the family gets some answers to their concerns about how things transpired, you can't just dismiss the public's unease, because that's normal. We all have kids. We all felt what the family is feeling, because a lot of times they say you don't feel it until it hits your doorstep. But in this case, it basically hit our doorsteps just based on the massive media coverage that was, alerted as a result of this unfortunate situation. You're talking about a innocent young girl who had dreams of doing great things, according to the family. And even if the family didn't say she had dreams of doing great things, that's a young child, and you just don't know what the future holds for any young mind out here. So we all felt it, and the public has a right to feel, uneasy. Anyone who has a child, anyone who has experienced something similar, is definitely going to feel it to the bone. And I just want to clarify, this whole debate is not about just Adriana Younge's tragic death solely. It's about the systemic trust that has been broken, and the disconnect between the people and those who are in positions to serve and protect them. This can be any child. So Adriana Younge kind of highlighted a lot of what the grand public or the world may not see, but this is a far bigger issue. It's a far bigger issue than just Adriana Younge, and this happening basically opened the world's eyes to a lot of things that may have been hidden before, because we hear things, but when we see it in present day, it makes it more realistic to us, and we live in a day and age now where people can access news at the touch of a phone, at the click of a button. So it was widespread. People all over the world was reaching out, and if you look online, it's news in all the major newspapers around the world. I seen it in the Jamaican newspaper. I seen it in the Bayesian newspaper, because I usually read newspaper from a lot of different Caribbean countries, because I like to travel, and I like to kind of just get a feel of what goes on in a lot of these countries that I intend to travel to. So it was big news, but it's also, in essence, an eye-opener for the world at large. Adriana Younge's story, reminds us of why persistent questioning is not just healthy, but it's necessary. So that's it for today, y'all. I just wanted to touch base and kind of give my views and provide a general overview based on what I've been seeing in the media. If this story touched you, if it's something that you feel you have an input or a say about that may be contradicting to what I said, leave it in the comments. Let's discuss it. It's just a sad situation. And like I said, it's not a story that no one, I think, enjoys covering at any point, So I just want to say condolences to the family and for all of those who are affected. And, just hold firm. And we just pray that we don't have to come and cover too much more of these type of stories. All right, so that's it for today. Thank you for tuning in to Thoughts Express TV. God bless, be safe, and let's protect our kids.